Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And today I was going to be doing a video about Peter Meyer and kind of the downfall of a lot of representatives and how people get elected to Congress on a Trumpian agenda, or at least align themselves with Trumpian principles to a certain degree in a primary, and then fade away and eventually become complete and total shills for the establishment. Now, I will be doing that video in the near future, maybe tomorrow, maybe sometime in early February, but it's important, and I realized that I didn't really do any 2022 predictions for the entire month, because the 2022 midterms, they are around 20 months away, and it's important that we look into them now. It's important that we start analyzing these states of these races, and I'm not necessarily going to be making just predictions. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about who could potentially run and which races would be good to have primary challengers, and I already did a video talking about that, but I think this video will explore further in depth throughout the whole entire nation what I expect to happen and what I believe should happen within the Republican Party, within their strategy. But first, I have to tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. Friends, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? Because I do, especially under Jobalist Hayden and his administration. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. The Red Cross recommends having at least 1 month's worth of food and water for everyone in your household, but make sure you get emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage so it's ready to eat whenever you need it. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan, and you should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, especially now. So go to preparewithredeagle.com and get ready. That's preparewithredeagle.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now. So here we go. The 2022 first Red Eagle Politics Senate prediction. We're going to start on the East Coast. We're going to work our way to the West Coast. Every individual race, we're going to be analyzing it, talking about it, and seeing what I exactly expect to happen, what I think could happen within the primaries, and we're going to start here on the East Coast. New Hampshire, I expect Chris Sununu to run. That is word on the street, and as a result, I expect him to easily win the primary, and I expect him to win the general by somewhat of a decent margin. So as a result, New Hampshire will be a flip by a lean margin, in my opinion, for now. If Sununu doesn't run, it'll be a little bit harder for Republicans to flip that, no doubt. Vermont, I expect that seat, that could be interesting, because right now you do have a Democrat who's going to be old, who's going to be retiring potentially, and Phil Scott is a Republican governor. He's extremely popular. He's a liberal Republican, and he could run for that seat. He could win it, but historically, federal races are different than statewide races. You can look at Montana this cycle, for example. Steve Bullock had a decent approval rating as governor. He lost by 10 to incumbent Steve Daines. Obviously, if it's an open seat, I think that Scott would have a chance. I'm not a fan of Scott whatsoever, but we're going to put that in the likely Democrat column right now. It's going to be difficult to see that flip. Connecticut should be safe as well. New York, you may see a primary between Chuck Schumer and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the state of New York. That's going to be an interesting race to watch, but either way, it's probably going to go Democrat. If AOC happens to win the primary, which there's probably no chance of that happening if she does run, maybe we could talk about a competitive race, but until then, it's New York. It's going to stay blue. So down here we have Pennsylvania. The state of Pennsylvania, where Pat Toomey is going to be retiring, you will see a new Republican on the ticket. Lou Barletta, I think, would be great. He is an America First candidate, no doubt, through and through. I think he could do very well in the rural areas if he is running up against a candidate that is not nearly as popular as Casey, whether it's going to be Fetterman or whether it's going to be Shapiro. I think it'd be a close race with him or whatever other Republican runs. I think that it could stay red with Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick is just a terrible candidate, in my opinion. He answers to the donor class. He answers to the Philly suburbs more so than the rural part of the state. For now, we're going to put Pennsylvania in the tilt to lean Democrat column. That can change. Obviously, we have zero polling in most of these states, so this is just my early predictions. But since last year's Senate prediction was pretty much on point, we're gonna roll with it for here on out without the polls, especially given how polling has been disastrous, even though it's really early on. Maryland, the state of Maryland. This one, a lot of people, word on the street is Larry Hogan is going to run, the governor. And normally, if he was going to run as a Republican, I don't believe he'd be able to win. That's why I believe he is going to run as an independent, caucusing with the Democrats. He will take votes away from the Democrat, which is not very popular, and the Republican, and as a result, he is likely going to, in my opinion, win in Maryland if he decides to run for Senate in the state of Maryland. So we can fill this out here. All right, so moving on, Ohio, you have Rob Portman, who is largely a rhino who's going to be retiring. We can potentially talk about America First challengers. Jim Jordan is likely not going to be running for Senate. He will likely take the position of the House Judiciary Chair in the state of Ohio. This is a state that I believe that you can find an America First candidate, you can find an outsider, you can find a decent Republican. Pretty much anybody's going to be an improvement from Rob Portman. People are mentioning the name J.D. Vance. I don't know how exactly that would play out, but it's interesting to look into. I think Ohio's going to stay red, especially in a red wave year. I think you could put it in the lean to likely column. Kentucky, I think Rand Paul should win easily. Same thing with Todd Young in Indiana. Potential primary challenger target there for an America First candidate that could win in the state of Indiana. Maybe Jim Banks if he wants it. Illinois is going to likely stay with the Democrats here. Looking down to the southeast, you have North Carolina. Laura Trump could be running. Dan Forrest could be running. Pete Nebraska could be running. You have several potential candidates to run in the state of North Carolina. I think that from my view, North Carolina is a lean red state in the midterms, especially assuming Republicans do well nationwide due to the national environment, and usually there will be some blowback on the current administration after 2 years of a term. So for that reason alone, North Carolina I will put as lean red. South Carolina, I think it should be safe. Potentially Tim Scott could be a primary target there in South Carolina. In terms of Georgia, this map was made before the runoff. So when it comes to Georgia, I think it's important that we fill out Georgia, the election that took place, as safe, because that seat will be held by Democrats until 2026, and there's nothing we can do about it. Thank you, Mitch McConnell, for your incompetency. In terms of the other seat that is available, that seat, I do believe, will flip into Republican hands. Warnock is not exactly that popular, and if you can put up a candidate that is above the low bar that Kelly Loeffler was, especially in a red wave year, it shouldn't be that difficult to flip that seat. Alabama, another potential primary target in Richard Shelby, that will be probably safe red. Same thing with Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, the state of Kansas, South Dakota, and North Dakota. I think we can fill out the West Coast as all blue. Maybe Tulsi Gabbard wants to primary challenge in the state of Hawaii, for all we know. That would be very interesting. Idaho, Utah, those should be safe. In terms of Florida, Rubio, not the biggest fan of Rubio. I get a lot of snake vibes from him. But in terms of him running, I think that if it's anybody but Donald Trump, he will easily win the primary. Florida, I believe, will be likely Republican on this map here, as you can see. Florida is immune to midterm waves at the state level in terms of the governorships typically, but Rubio is fairly popular. He's well-liked among a lot of the Cuban community in Miami-Dade, as well as many other parts of the state. And for that reason alone, along with the fact that the Florida Democrat Party is extremely incompetent and Florida has a very secure voting system, I think Florida can be put as likely Republican. Missouri, that's another primary challenger. I talked about Roy Blunt. There's several candidates, I think, that could potentially be a primary challenger to him. Missouri will be a safe Republican state. Iowa and Wisconsin. Chuck Grassley most likely going to retire. Hopefully we can get a Trumpian type of conservative in the state of Iowa. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens there. I put the seat as lean to likely Republican at the moment. I don't really know what Democrat's going to be able to run statewide a successful campaign. It's going to be interesting to look into. So for right now, Iowa likely Republican. Iowa, again, like Ohio, bucked the polling. And as I expected, they would be, Trump +8 type of states, and they were. Most polling had them as pure toss-ups, ironically enough. Just shows you how dead the polling industry is. Now, I talked about Pennsylvania, talking about potential bad things happen in Philadelphia and Atlanta. By the way, I'm taking that into consideration on this map, too. Same thing with suburban Milwaukee. That's where we saw a lot of the shift away from the president that we really didn't expect was in, the exurbs and suburbs of Milwaukee. It's not just the city core, it's also the suburbs and exurbs, as Robert Barnes, a well-respected attorney, has consistently pointed out, especially in his long talks about the 2020 election with Richard Barris on People's Pundit Daily's channel. Wisconsin is still, even with what happened in 2020, moved vastly to the right in terms of a trend. In fact, I don't know if this state at the national level, as long as Republicans are nominating people that are at least half populous, I can't really see them losing, especially if they are able to rebound in the Milwaukee suburbs. There's virtually no way with the rural trends that are happening in the state. I was shocked to see a lot of the driftless area move to the right this cycle in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin I'm going to put as lean Republican. I think that Johnson will retire. I think there's several more Trump-style America First candidates that could rise up, like Nicholson, and I think he could win against whatever candidate the Democrats decide to put up. So already Republicans are at 50 seats in the Senate here. Colorado, I don't really know of a Republican candidate there. It could be a little bit close because of the national environment, but I'm still going to be putting that as likely Democrat for now, maybe even lean. The state of Nevada, this is a pure toss-up in my opinion. I'll probably put it as tilt Democrat. Nevada's actually moving to the right, depending on, Hispanic trends and which types of Hispanics come out and turn out to vote in the midterms. Republicans could make even more gains. And Nevada suburbs are not exactly trending the way that a lot of suburbs nationwide are trending. Clark County's been consistently actually moving to the right over the past 12, 15 years or so, and it's important to keep that in mind. Now, Republicans could flip it. I don't know their candidate. I think Laxalt would be interesting. I think he could make it competitive with Cortez Masto, but bad things happen in Clark County from time to time, as we saw in the 2020 election. So for right now, we'll leave that as tilt Democrat. The state of Arizona, this is a state that I think that Mark Kelly could lose. He barely won. Given everything that took place, given, the polling supporting him, given a lot of what was backing him up, he still only won by 2%. Now, who knows how many military ballots he can find for him that could put him over the top again. I think that Republicans have a lot of candidates there that could be potential contenders. I think Doug Ducey has kind of regulated himself out of the way. Andy Biggs, I think, could go out there. He can appeal to the Trumpian base, but he also can appeal to Maricopa. Partially why I believe that McSally was not able to win is because she didn't really win over Midwestern transplants, and also she wasn't from the Maricopa County area. I think that if you have somebody that is, it'd make it a lot easier going up against Mark Kelly. For right now, we'll put that as tilt Republican, but it is subject to change. Now we only have the state of Alaska. It's important to note that Lisa Murkowski is very difficult to beat in the primary, but I think it's doable. I think it's possible, especially with the anger at the GOP establishment. So right now, I think Alaska we're going to be putting as safe Republican for now. Either if it is Murkowski or if it's Palin or somebody else, I think it's going to be safe Republican, unless somehow Murkowski goes up against a libertarian candidate that's like a paleo-libertarian and based and strong and, could actually win the state. Otherwise, it's unlikely to happen. So 52-48, essentially, because Larry Hogan would be caucusing with the Democrats, even though he's more of an independent. That is what we have. If Hogan does not run, it would probably be 52-48. If Sununu doesn't run, it would likely be 51-49, but this is the map that I expect. Republicans are going to gain 2 seats, and Democrats are going to lose 3 seats in the 2022 midterms. It's not a big wave for Republicans, in my opinion, especially with the mail-in system. Lower propensity voters will be able to turn out, and anything else that could potentially happen, if you know what I mean. But 52-48 is what we have it at now, or really 52-47-1. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. As anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.